Hello everybody and welcome to another episode of Gear Talk, and this time I'm going to talk you about my Fujifilm X-Pro1 converted to infrared. Before we begin, a little advertising message. If you want to support the channel, please buy one of these two books. One is the Photography, the F manual, and you know what the F stands for. So basically is a book about basics, essential basic of photography. And the other one is a novel that I wrote. It's very good reviews on Amazon, so check it out. It's a photographic novel because it starts with the finding of some negatives in Florida and goes around the world to find who was portrayed in the pictures. So if you want to support the channel, this or this, and I will be happy. Thank you very much. Second, before we begin, a little slideshow so you can see what kind of infrared I do, and you can have an idea of why I take pictures in infrared. Now, as you have seen in the video, I like to do infrared photography in black and white. And by the way, in the video there are a couple of images that were taken with the Canon 5D that was modified for infrared, and a couple of images that were taken with film, with the Kodak infrared film. So guess the images if you want to have fun. I don't tell you about the images, so take a look and see if you can find the difference, especially between the Canon and the Fuji. This said, why I start to photograph in infrared is because I always enjoy to find something different, to get a little bit out of my schemes, and I started with the film, as I said, with a beautiful Kodak infrared film. It was a fantastic film. Obviously, it was a very niche market, so at a certain point, with the advent of digital, Kodak decided to stop to produce the film. And at that point, I wanted something to photograph in digital, and I had a Canon 5D body that I was not using anymore, the original one, 12 megapixels, and I decided to send it to convert to infrared. And I sent it to, I was in Italy, I sent it to in USA to Live Pixel, and they did really a great job. So That's that's a thing. And by the way, if you are looking for informations about infrared photography, different filters, and all these kind of things, I suggest the website of Lightpixel. They have a lot of videos and tutorials that explain things. It's a very well built website. And my only problem is that at a certain point I decided to buy a Fuji X-Pro1, and this was a regular Fuji X-Pro1. The X-Pro2 was coming on the market in January. It was Christmas, and I saw the price of a kit X-Pro1 with 80 millimeters on Amazon. It was going down, 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 and at a certain point it arrived at 330 euros. There was basically nothing, and I decided to buy it just to have a small compact body to keep with me and take photographs. And I was thinking, yeah, it will be probably limited in some way, but when I received the camera, I started to take pictures, and I was, wow, this is really a great camera, great quality of images. I compared that with my Canon images that at the time I was using a 1DS Mark III. I don't know if it was the 3, it was the last one, produced 21 megapixels, and that made me think, okay, I will sell all my Canon and I will switch to the X-Pro series of Fuji, and is what I did. So when I sold all my Canons, obviously I was without lenses also for the infrared camera, and I sold also the infrared camera. And at that point I was missing an infrared camera, so I decided to buy an X-Pro1 on eBay, used, a very good deal, and convert the camera. This time I didn't send the camera to be converted by Lightpixel, but I did the conversion myself. And this is not because I was not happy with Lightpixel, but is because the Italian customs are pretty crazy, and here they try to tax everything they can and as high as possible. So when the camera arrived back from the USA, I had to pay the import taxes and the VAT, that is 22%. Import taxes are around 6, I think. I had to pay them not only on the conversion and the shipment, but also on the supposed value of the camera, as if I bought the camera new in the USA. So they consider the list price, the last list price of the Canon 5D, that was over $1,000, for something as $1,600, and they applied the import taxes and VAT on all the price. So I ended up paying something as much more than $600, I think, for the thing, and was really a kind of too much, especially because I don't like to, I don't care to pay for a service, but I hate to pay for something that is just wasting money. So I decided to convert by myself this camera. And that's something that, by the way, something that I want you to notice is we always have import taxes and tariffs on all the goods both from the USA here in Europe. And it's fun now that USA is starting to put some tariffs on the European goods, that everybody's shocked and everybody's preaching a free market without import taxes, especially European, are every moment in the news are saying this is terrible, we don't want the taxes and all these kind of things, but we always had and we still have taxes on everything we buy from the USA. So if you really don't like taxes, start to take off the tariffs from the goods imported from USA. But this said, I decided to convert this camera by myself, and there's a video that is linked here or somewhere here. I think it's an internal video, so I can put it up here. It's a time-lapse and I explain how I converted and modified the camera. It's not a great video, not instructional video, but you can have some good ideas of what is the process and some tricks to make it easier. Is it something that I suggest to do the conversion yourself? Absolutely not. get the camera converted by a professional service. To do it by yourself, it's really something that you must be very precise. The dust is always a problem. You must be able to solder very small parts, and it's really a difficult process. It's not something smooth that you can do in a few hours. I spent days doing that because I had to get the filter, take the measurement of the filter, order the filter cut in the right way, and all these kind of things. So I do not suggest to do it yourself. Now there are some services also in Europe that are doing the conversion, so check online. And I never tried them, but I'm pretty sure that they are good. Look in the review online, they are good. And so if you are in Europe, in Italy, or in places where the import taxes are a problem, check these services in Europe. If you are in the USA, there are many services that do it pretty well. So, and LivePixels is one of them, and I can say when I tested it, I was very satisfied. So this is the thing. The conversion can be done in many different ways, and by the way, the conversion is something that you have to decide what you like to do. You can put different filters. Basically, conversion is to take off the normal filter that is in front of the sensor that will block the ultraviolet and infrared light, so the camera will only see the visible light. You take away the sensor, the filter, and you put another filter, and this other filter can you can choose if it will let all the lights in, just some part of the spectrum, very strict infrared or not. Also for that, check LivePixels. They have a beautiful video explaining all the difference in the filters. What I decided to do with this camera was to put a 720 nanometers filter. So it's pure, almost pure black and white. And if you want to go straight black and white, there's 800 nanometer. 720 is exactly the same spectrum that was recorded by the Kodak infrared. And the good thing is that with the 720 you still have a little of color. Basically you have bluish the areas with a lot of infrared, and yellow the areas without a lot of infrared. So there's this little nuance that can be very helpful in post-production to create masks based on the color. Or when you do the conversion to black and white, you can use the slides, the blue and yellow slides, to give more luminosity or less luminosity to different areas. So that's a very good thing and good point. Why did I decide to convert an XPro1? And first of all, because I love the XPro series of the Fuji, made by Fuji. I think is a camera that really fit my photography style, and there's a lot of things I like about these cameras. But when I converted the 5D, there was a problem. There was a DSLR without a live view. So the big problem is that in that case, to focus, you have to focus in a different way. The autofocus will not work because the point of focus of infrared is not the same as the visible spectrum, and that's another little problem, because in the old manual beautiful lenses that we had on film, like this Pentax, if you look near the focusing notch and the depth of field scale, here you can see there's a little red line, and basically that was indicating how to focus infrared. So it was easy to focus the visible light, take the point of focus and just turn it from the normal notch to the infrared. Obviously autofocus lenses don't have this scale and don't have all these things, so it was impossible to focus the camera, if not just intuitively. some conversion, when they do the conversion, Live Pixels offer this, for example, they can, in the case, change the autofocus system and fit it to autofocus infrared, but that is just with one specific lens. So you will be limited to the use of one single lens on your camera. The mirrorless, and the same thing happens with the exposure meter, because the exposure meter exposed for the normal light, and with the infrared is totally different. With exposure meter was not such a big deal. I was used with film, then in the case it was just an educated guess, but was always pretty easy after a while to see a sheen and figure out how to expose the film. So exposure didn't worry me much. The focus was really a little pain in the rear. So when I changed, I decided, okay, I want obviously to go with the mirrorless. I also had all the lenses and other bodies in the XPro series, so it was my choice as a default. And mirrorless for infrared are much better, because in the mirrorless everything from the focus to the exposure is calculated directly on the sensor. So they take the values on the sensor and use them to calculate the focus and the exposure. At that point the sensor doesn't care if the light that arrives on it is infrared or not infrared. So if the sensor see in focus, it's in focus, and if the sensor calculate an exposure, that's exactly the exposure, no matter if it's infrared or not. So the mirrorless is the choice. But for me there was another thing, because I always thought to use a cheaper XE1, but I decided for this because what I love about this camera, and especially with infrared, is the hybrid viewfinder. And with the hybrid viewfinder you can use an electronic viewfinder to preview the image or the LCD, but you can also use the optical viewfinder. And with the optical viewfinder for me is much better, because I see a sheen and I figure out in my mind how the image will come out. While looking through the AVF, the electronic viewfinder, I see not what my mind saw, but I see what the camera is seeing, and I don't like that at all in normal photography, but especially with infrared. With infrared, the image that you get is very flat, is very reddish. If you want, you have to do the white balance calibration for the infrared. It's something that can be very easy, just photographing some grass and do the white balance on that. And so, but still the image is flat, is not a good image. The fact is that the latitude of exposure of the camera, when compared to the latitude of values in an infrared sheen, is much more. So to talk in modern terms, the histogram is always compressed, and in post-production there's always the need to expand the histogram. And having this image very compressed and all these kind of things, I don't like to look at them. I prefer to look through the optical viewfinder and imagine how the infrared will come out. But I also like to have some time. The EVF, especially for composition matters, when I use the 14mm, for example, is at the limit of the view, the field view of the optical viewfinder. So sometimes I just switch quickly to the EVF and I check the composition. So that's why I loved the XPro1 as an infrared camera. It's really a camera that I particularly like for this option to have the EVF or OVF. So as I said, the image that you see is pretty flat and very reddish. So you can do the custom white balance, or you can do as I do normally. It's just my camera is set on black and white, so I have the preview in black and white, and I'm not distracted by the very strong magenta. This is what I really like and why I choose this camera. And by the way, this style of cameras, I love them because the dials and they are very similar to the mechanical camera I was born with, as a setting of the shutter speed, aperture. In the case of the XPro2, XPro3, there's this beautiful ISO wheel that somebody hates it. I love it, so I don't have to go to the menus and all this kind of things. By the way, something that I dislike about this camera and all digital cameras, so it's not just about this, is that the back is very crowded with buttons, and there's always something that get pushed without noticing. I put the camera in the bag, and the exposure compensation can move. I keep it with my hands, and I use this thumb rest, but it's not enough, and I always push something, and I always find a camera with settings that, okay, how the hell this setting was going on. And I have no idea why there's not a very simple thing in digital cameras, especially Fuji now is going with pure photography with the XPro3 and all this concept. Why they don't do the most simple possible things? A little switch can be coaxial with the on and off button, or is not important, just a physical switch that you can turn on and off that will lock all the buttons in the back and all the things, that will only leave working ISO, shutter speed and aperture, or you can do it that is programmable, and the user can decide what turn off or not. But for me, the idea is a little switch that will shut off all these buttons, and at that point I will be a really happy man with the camera. So I love these cameras, still I hate all these crowded things and the fact that there are too many buttons to consider. For me, I want a camera that I only have to consider three things: ISO, shutter speed and aperture. This said, the file that came out is a beautiful file, but as I said, very flat and very reddish. So this is my process to create a printable file and black and white file. And the first thing is opening the file, go to the white balance, get the picker and do the white balance on something that is, I'm sure is white, like leaves or things like that. Once I have done that, I do a conversion to black and white, and at that point I can, if I want, regulate a little the blue and the yellows to change the tonality of the areas with more or less infrared. Once that is done, usually it's essential to do some levels to bring the histogram back to its all possible whiteness, and it's done. Usually that's all I do to my images. I don't like to do the fake grain or the fake flow effect or this kind of things. The Kodak infrared had this characteristic to not have the anti-halo layer on the film, so it was very soft in the highlights. And I don't like to simulate that in digital. I tend to prefer the characteristic of digital, so sharpness and precision. And that's all what is possible, what I like to do to my cameras. So that's basically all. Another thing I want to tell you about this camera is a lot of people like this red, some people hate it. For me it was just the decision to put this red leatherette is because to modify the filter, to change the filter, I had to open the camera, so I had to peel off the old leatherette, and at that point I was, okay, why not try with something different, just to distinguish my camera in the bag. So this red for me is more than just, yeah, I like it, so it's fun, but the idea is just that if I have this camera in the bag, I can take off the camera and I'm sure that I'm with infrared camera, and I cannot inadvertently use this camera instead of another camera. And using mostly the optical viewfinder, that can be there's no preview if the camera is infrared or not, so it is quite important to distinguish the camera and not risk to use the infrared camera instead of normal camera. And right now is not a problem because my other bodies are not XPro1, but are the further versions. But when I had multiple XPro1, that was the point why I decided to put the red here. Another things, this strap, by the way, is by Sailor Strap. Beautiful strap with this very soft on your neck. So. And it's a great guy, the guy that produced this. So if you like the strap, check out in the comments down there, there's the link. This side, and by the way, I am no percentage or anything else, I just like the feeling of the straps. This side, I think this is almost all. No, there's another thing I want to say, is that the lenses, all the lenses I tested on the infrared, because sometimes the lenses, they don't are not in the same way with infrared and normal light. So sometimes you have problem like a spot that is pretty bright white spots inside the camera, and there's more flare usually in this kind of things. So the lens I tested was the 14mm Fuji. It works perfectly. 35 1.4, that is one, worked perfectly. 55 20 200, the zoom works perfectly. 60mm, it's no with infrared. 90mm f.2 works well. I tried a Samyang 12mm. It was working well. 8mm was working well, but only with some apertures and not others. So, if you want to know if your lens will work with infrared, just go to the go on Google and search for infrared lens database or something like that. I will put the link down here in the comments, but I don't remember the name of the website now. And there's a nice database with all the lenses and all their how they perform with infrared. So this is all. Infrared is really a lot of fun. Sometimes I use it just to when I have creative, I'm a little bit stuck, or I see a subject and I cannot find the right moment, the right vision. I switch to infrared, and that unlock my creativity. Another things I love infrared is that the best time of the day to use infrared is usually the worst time of the day to use a normal camera visual effect. So if you want to take beautiful pictures with infrared, go around noon, very high sun and all this kind of things. So it's very nice to be around and have a camera that can give you great results when the normal camera is, you know, not so good. So that's another reason why I like infrared. This said, I hope you enjoyed the video. I repeat it again, if you want to support the channel, 1 and 2, beautiful books. I hope to see you next time. If you enjoyed the video, please put a like, subscribe to the channel, share it with your friends. And if you want to see my photography infrared and not, go to my website, and while you're there, please subscribe to the email, the newsletter that I send every week. If there's something new on the website, you will receive my newsletter. So thank you for watching, see you next time, and next time I will be back with film photography.